episode of 2023 at the MyGigsters. If you're listening here for the first time, listeners, we are MyGigsters, an exclusive community for gig economy workers, self-employed, and all the hustlers out there trying to make a change. In this podcast, and there's a lot of other episodes you can listen to, we talk about all about gig economy, entrepreneurship. We get special guests like someone next to me, which I'll talk in a minute, but everything about setting up and getting into self-employment and freelancing and being financially secure while doing it. So I've got a really interesting person here that I'm going to talk to. But before I introduce who this person is and what this topic is going to be about, I'm going to share my listeners one of the secrets of the origin story of MyGigsters.
Okay, bring it on. Let's hear it.
Like nobody knows this, as in not nobody, but not many people know this. People think that we are MyGigsters as a company, but before that, there was an episode that was in 2020. MyGigsters had a different name, and it was called Aussie Gigsters. And that company, it wasn't a company, but that name existed for over 48 hours. It was part of that's probably where the origins of me personally as a startup founder, being an international student, and the transition being from an international student to a startup founder. That episode was probably the birthplace of the idea of MyGigsters, and that happened at the Future Founder Festival in Melbourne, just at the onset of the pandemic. Online. And for the listeners out there, that was organized and facilitated by Hex.
Yeah, and probably at the time we were called something different as well.
Yes.
We were called the Hacker Exchange.
Hacker Exchange.
Until we had enough people be like, do you need a code to do this program? We're like, no. So we did a quick change on that one as well.
Yes. It was that it's an important episode when in hindsight it has given a really good launch pad for us to go and explore this problem more, be more passionate about solving this problem. And here today we are, supported by a large community and a lot of stakeholders such as, Hex and others. Thanks to Hex for creating that spark early on.
Amazing. I love it. And just in 48 hours.
Just in 48 hours.
That's all you need.
Yeah, if you're Googling Aussie Gigster, you might still see our
any old like merch or
old
stickers.
merches, yes, and YouTube videos and stuff. But with no further ado, I would like to introduce Chris Hoffman, my dear friend, partner. We work in the same space. We are in Adelaide, the beautiful part of Australia.
The kingdom.
The kingdom. Yes. I want to go straight into the question, right? Sure. Chris, who are you?
Who am I? Gosh. I'm trying to get my therapist to tell me as well. I grew up in Southern California, so I've actually been in Adelaide for a decade.
Nice.
But with this, you hear this brash American accent coming through your speakers. Grew up in California, and from like a pretty like just middle class background. Grew up in Southern California. Barely got into university. I was so lucky to have a university that opened up literally in my town. Like that was like the only way I got in. But it was actually the first ever class, like the first ever cohort of students at this university. So it's like the newest in the country. And it was actually this incredible experience to like reinvent yourself and be able to try new things and actually feel more connected to your education and try new things, take chances, get involved. And so I wound up being, someone who could barely get into a university to actually like really finding myself and really kind of challenging myself academically. That got me to New York. So I learned that I wanted to work in education, could not get a job after undergrad. Still didn't know what to do. And the thing that really kind of put my mind to what I thought I could do was actually studying abroad, like getting outside my comfort zone. So it was the first time I really ever left the country. It was way too late in the game. I was 21, but I lived in the UK for a year. And I just learned an entire new way to think and to live and try new foods and realize, oh yeah, like no wonder my jokes are doing a lot better here. The self-deprecation humor is like we're really working in the UK. And I kind of came back and said, wow, you know what? I was like the first person at this university to ever study overseas. Like I got to get more people to do it. Nice. And so I ended up getting a master's at NYU in education administration. And I wanted to basically work at a university for the rest of my life, getting people outside their comfort zones, studying abroad. And so what brought me to Australia was, working in education, never, you don't make a lot of money ever. but I looked up where you would have the least crappy pay in the world for education. Switzerland and Australia were on the list. And so it took me about a year
Yeah.
of applying for jobs, and I got one interview with the University of Adelaide.
Nice.
I bombed that interview, but maybe they were desperate enough because I got the call a week later, said, how fast can you get from New York City to Adelaide? And that was a decade ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that's what brought me to Australia.
Why education? Did you have anyone in your family? Or?
My mom's a librarian, my dad's electrician.
Okay.
I think my mom is definitely the more kind of like focused on academia. So she's got a master's, UCLA undergrad and postgrad. No, but for me, I think it was something to where I really did not know what to do, and it was the only thing I had some demonstrated experience, like being a student worker on campus, running clubs and organizations, and because it was a new university, when I came back from the study abroad trip, the director of the office left. So as an undergrad student, I had to single-handedly run a university department.
Oh.
So I kind of was like, okay, well, this is kind of okay, but it's actually the only kind of direct work experience I had because at the time, I thought there was just a very traditional and linear path to career. So I kind of was like very safe. I was very safe at the time.
Nice.
To actually be like, okay, well, I have this experience. I like to study abroad. I'm just going to work and study abroad for the rest of my life. And thought that would just be all going to work out. But as we'll go into the episode, you'll realize it definitely didn't.
Now, so you moved from California, and I like the international education today is, a lot of people are encouraged. I come from India, and many of our young kids these days dream of international education, and they pursue them more than what used to be earlier. But you did that, took up the risk to go somewhere that you don't know and pursue something that you want to follow. But fast forward the story, here you are in Australia, working in the education sector that you like the most. Yeah. How did you end up with X?
So what happened was I was working at a university here in South Australia, and I was here to manage a department, as universities oftentimes do. Budgets change, and they oftentimes do a lot of large cuts. And I was a situation where I had what I thought was just one key skill set that I was really good. I was known for it in my space for international education. Like I was actually like I did quite well, and I had met a lot of people, but that university just made my job completely redundant. And so South Australia being a smaller place, I said, oh, you know what? There's actually a maternity cover right down the road at the other university doing the exact same job. So I played it safe again. I didn't take that opportunity to actually reflect. I doubled down on what was safe and comfortable. And I got there, and it was even worse. And I was really depressed. Like I was like, but I'm good at this. Why is this being so hard? Why is this being so uncomfortable? Why am I not doing well anymore? And I ended up quitting that job after 3 months. And at the time, I had one kid on the way, no immediate family. And so that was really scary. But I was in a really dark place, and I did not know what to do at all because I had played it safe from the very beginning of like this traditional linear path. Oh, working in education, this really niche area in education, building it up, and then all of a sudden that can change. And so dark time, and didn't know exactly what to do, but I did a lot of self-reflection for the first time in my life. And what I realized was like, well, okay, I can't really work at a university anymore, but like you can still actually impact education and not being directly in the inside. And so I did reflecting and kind of realized that along the way, I was paying it forward. I was really helping people out. And this was like the first time in my life where I really genuinely asked for help. And this is where Hex comes in. I had met CEO Jeanette. She was just getting started with a company called the Hacker Exchange. They had one university partner that they worked with, RMIT, great university in Melbourne. Someone in my network said, you have to meet this person. And what you do, being unemployed, is you meet on rooftop bars in the daytime for a couple drinks, a couple gins. We got on incredibly well. I was really fortunate to have met, to have students have gone on Hacker Exchange programs at the time. And so I knew this was an incredible opportunity for students. And I was lost. And I kind of just asked her, on I think it was a Google Meet session. I just said, I think I can do something for you. Like you're an education company almost by accident. They've created these incredible programs overseas, has university credit attached, but no education background for it. And I said, I think I can generally help. And, she did say like, we're just getting started. how would you like to make a lot less money?
Yeah.
And at the time, it was something to where I felt like I had to do something radically different and scary and unknown, because I reached a point I finally kind of was against the ropes and I didn't know what to do next. And so I didn't. So this was kind of like my new start. It was, yeah, that first time I asked for help. I'm glad I did.
First of all, thanks for sharing. You are with one of the fastest growing EdTech companies, startups in all of Australia, and recently being selected and nominated and recognized as a really really out of the box thinking companies.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
what I'm more inspired by that part of the story is you still being focused on continuing the path of education,
Yeah.
wider support of to the students, back to students, not saying that, oh, this industry doesn't work, let me switch industries and go to something else.
Yeah, so it was completely different. Yeah, like for a lot of people, yeah. No, for me, like it still was slightly safe, but it was enough to where I reflected, be like, you know what, actually, there's so much innovation that's possible. Like if you know something, you're kind of from the inside, you can kind of actually try to disrupt it, do something, focus entirely different, but still kind of use those mindset, skill sets, tool sets, and that knowledge, that historical knowledge you have in a certain space,
Yeah.
to do something different, but to actually kind of like work to make it better or disrupt it. Or provide a solution to that market, in a completely different way.
You've obviously moved on from a traditional university workplace pattern to now fast growing, disruptive. Hex is all about youth business entrepreneurship development and bringing entrepreneurship skill set to the much needed group,
Absolutely.
which is the young, talented, and hungry hustlers. For the sake of my listeners, the question to you is, why does Hex even exist in the first place?
Yeah, I mentioned even just in my own journey that like traditional linear path, like it's complete bullshit. Like that is not a thing anymore. Like we're gonna have 17 different jobs. We're gonna be doing side hustles. We're gonna be changing different careers, like 5 different careers. And so, but the system is designed in a way that is just for this traditional linear path. And so why Hex exists is like we have come up with what we think are the kind of key fundamental mindsets, skill sets, and tool sets, and foundational education that you need to be successful and an adaptive, like ethical leader, no matter like what industry you're going into.
Yeah.
So like, going into nursing, early childhood education, psychology, and then your more traditional STEMs and business stuff. Like you got to be innovative.
Yeah.
You got to be financially savvy. And that's also, of course, what you guys are really kicking ass in. You got to know yourself. You got to be able to have a minimum tech literacy, because no matter what industry you're going in, they're all tech-enabled companies now.
You've got to use ChatGPT.
Exactly right. and how to use it to your advantage, right? I mean, in the universities, I mean, sidetrack there. I mean, the way that they design education is they're so screwed for it, because it's all this, like all the assessments and the exams they do.
Correct.
And then with Hex, our eyes on the future for us. It's kind of like, no, it's individualized. It's reflective. It's about your own unique experience.
Yes.
That's what we're assessing on your creativity, your evidence of action. That's the kind of stuff. And so we've come up with this kind of education pedagogy that we call exponential intelligence. I wanted it to be hexponential because I love puns, but
nice.
But we just got this trademarked. And so it is the kind of 30 mindset skill sets and tool sets that our industry partners have validated to say, actually, this is what employers need to be looking for.
Yeah.
And this is what universities aren't teaching at the level that we are, and to respond to the ever-changing world in tech and innovation. So that's why we exist, is to kind of be this circuit breaker, this expansion pack.
Yes.
Whether you are in school or a university or completely outside that space in a more kind of non-traditional lifelong learning path that you're on. So yeah, we want to be that sort of expansion pack to your learning journey.
Nice. I like that word, that exponential intelligence. I think it's really key here, because in my own journey of being an international student myself, and I did 2 masters at
2 masters.
Yes, I do see there is this gap. There's this big delta between what the standard curriculum offers, which is the textbook knowledge of what is startup mean, or what entrepreneurship means, what is business basics, and then there is this applied experience. Now, if you are already running a business and doing a master's in business, maybe you got some opportunity to bring that real life into the course and then work it out. But not everybody has got that set up. But
Yeah, well, and the institutions aren't set up for that
oh,
either, because it
yes,
does take a year to a year and a half for those courses to be updated or to be
correct,
created. Like the
correct.
system doesn't allow for it.
Mention this point, while there are some really technical, theoretical, academical points to where the university does offer really good perspective and space to go learn, but there's also this professional, not written in a textbook skill, like how do you be resilient, how
Yeah.
do you take risk, how do you
You're
think
about to
outside the
enter a
box?
global pandemic and you're a study abroad company. What do you do?
What do you
When
do?
you can't travel and you only did things in person? Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
and that's the essence of entrepreneurship.
For sure.
And Hex in its own journey has transformed to a
Yeah.
completely different company all the
Completely.
way. Talk me about that episode where in 2020 where Hex has been thrown to the scenario where the checkouts are closed.
This is where the gray hairs that you're seeing, that's where they
Yes.
started.
And what happened and what's
Exactly.
Hex today?
The date was, it was, I could tell you about when it was around March 2020.
Yep.
We were about to do a delegation for the Victorian government to go to South by Southwest. And basically, like a few days before, government pulls out, South Start gets canceled.
Oh.
And we quickly realized, and while I'm based in Adelaide, the Hex team is Melbourne-based, happened to be in town at the time. And we kind of realized very quickly that our entire business model was going to be impossible quite soon. And we had to make this we locked ourselves in a room with a whiteboard that my colleague Jack wrote down, war room, because we were just going to figure it all out in one day. We're just going to just do whatever it took. And we had to really think about, do we just hold on here? Do we just get that job keeper? Do we do it? Do we just kind of, just take a break for a bit, try something new? Or do we want to actually do something for these students and for our mission, which is to, we want to be able to be this important circuit breaker in someone's journey to kind of disrupt this, this linear system. But then we realized, well, we've never done anything online before. And so we had to kind of decide like what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be learning. And it's all hindsight, of course. At the time, it's scary, right? But like, we made a conscious decision to just completely swing for the fences and just be so brazen in our approach to try something new that would be so impactful, and then but also trying to find what is the new problem that's existing. Well, Jeanette, our CEO, said basically the whole world has scraped their knee and everyone's looking for their mom. Like, we're going to be their mom. And our partners, our university partners. So I mean, your experience with international education, and for the international student listeners, I mean, not people are trying to come back to Australia. International students are about to be disengaged. They're not going to be able to connect back to their home institutions.
Yep.
And so we kind of realized, well, actually, that's the problem, is that students don't know what to do now. Institutions don't know what to do now. How are people going to be running impactful education in this way? And so we saw an opportunity to engage people all over the world.
Nice.
But we used our model of entrepreneurship as the foundation to actually have people start working on ideas to help navigate for different industries during the pandemic.
Correct.
And so we started out with basic hackathons, like Hack the Crisis, where we had 400 people from across Australia working on kind of COVID-based solutions in April 2020.
Yeah.
We then, again, never did stuff online. The next one we did was the Global Venture Exchange, where we partnered with a fantastic company called the Draper Startup House, who was just as screwed as we were, if not more, because they had 30 locations, brick and mortar, around the world that they couldn't fill. And so we did, we almost did this kind of 3-day, 72-hour, 12 different country relay race, hearing from all these different founders about what they were going through. And we just kept on iterating and then slowly trying to figure out how we can make this a sustainable model. But it was really hard. You ended up having to run 24/7 live programs, which isn't scalable. But we got thousands of students to reconsider their education, to create businesses, to change their degree to something that they were more happy with, no matter what the expectations of the families and the traditional path that they're on. And so I think we just had that front of mind to be incredibly impactful, challenging, and supportive for learners who were incredibly impacted by the pandemic. And so, yeah, we've come out of it though,
Nice.
with a more scalable EdTech company.
Correct. Yes.
And we got to raise a seed round at the beginning of 2022.
Yes.
Yeah.
And congrats to that.
Thanks so
And
much.
I like you just not only pivoted, but you also took a position or a topic that you wanted to, help more.
Yeah.
And that's dear to us at MyGigsters because, a couple of stats that we're looking at over the last year, especially during COVID, is increasingly large amount of individuals, especially young people, wanted to try entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
are eager to set up side hustles or businesses. In one of the stats that came from the US last year was saying 60% of teens, young teens, they preferred to be an entrepreneur rather than work for a traditional business. The stab is not starting a business, but I think the underlying innate thought is young people wanted to be entrepreneurial. And that's not about starting business. That's about being. It's a state of being.
And maybe
right?
the deeper levels, maybe they're not putting words to it, but also just that there isn't just one way to do things, right? Because
Correct, yes.
what we're seeing as well is, I think it was like something like 40% of U.S. like high school leavers are considering a gap year.
Yes.
To kind of create that sort of that space to be, do I want to launch a business? Is higher education right for me?
Yeah.
So things are changing, and I think that's why what we're doing, why we are existing now, is to try to be that safe space, that kind of next step after high school, to kind of actually try on those different hats, to explore, all those alternate futures, and especially entrepreneurship as well, and more kind of professional focused experiences.
Yeah, one of the biggest motivations or reasons why our community at MyGigsters, they pick up being self-employed, whether they are a rideshare driver or an air tasker or a healthcare worker or a freelancer consultant, or whatever freelancing or self-employment they are into, they appreciate and they acknowledge the need for autonomy, flexibility, and the underpinning skill set of being an entrepreneur. And that's not just about doing their craft, but is also being financially savvy. It's all about knowing a bit of technologies, knowing how to sell things, knowing how to manage contractors or
and if something goes pear-shaped, how to kind of quickly change tack and pivot and fail forward.
Yeah, and
they build a community as well. Have people around you, your personal advisor.
Well, I say, for my listeners out there, and if you are thinking about starting to do something, or thinking about, or if you're one of me, like I had this part of my life at some point where I had this was gut feel, right? There was this borderline suffocating feeling that I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and
where did that come from?
I don't know, actually. I'm still reflecting on a lot of things in my life, and I'm still trying to go back to why and stuff. But also I come from a culture where, at least in my family, entrepreneurship was not a thing. You either get a job as an engineer or a doctor, 9 to 5, and they have a happy life with fixed income. But coming to Australia and knowing that entrepreneurship is something that actually I can try, even if I don't know what it's going to be, but it gives me the opportunity and the space to explore and test it. And I think for the benefit of the MyGigsters listeners here, and I think one thing that they can take away from this episode is, there are institutions such as Hex, who give you that little bit of teaser, the tasting, the tasting course of what entrepreneurship means, and you grab them and then you take that skill into your work.
Because you might go through it. Like, I mean, I think only 1 in 5 Hexes right now, like, even though it's an entrepreneurship focused program, like 4 or 5 of them are innovating within traditional industries, and that's still what we need as well. We need entrepreneurs. We need people to still be really innovative in all types of sectors. But what's, I guess, for Hex as well, like, if something is entrepreneurship, if that's what you really want to be able to do, it's all about finding, whether it's your university or someone like Hex, to be able to kind of be like, okay, what's my next step? Like, what's the on ramp? If I want to do entrepreneurship, like, what are the next steps? Because it's you don't hear about it in high school. You don't oftentimes hear about it sometimes. And so, yeah, we're hoping to try to just be that sort of that step, and then on ramp into be like, so like, actually, you know what? Like, you are at university, you're doing Hex as well, and like, you want to work, you want to be a gig economy worker during this time. Like, yeah, MyGigsters, like that's your path. Like, that's the next thing you do. Like, we want to be able to kind of like, tie those knots and kind of be those kind of on ramps.
I think that, now correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but I think the future is heading where we know AI is going to replace most of us, most of what we do. We have to, treasure the most important part of us is the way we think, the way we build, the way we navigate, the way we make decisions, the way we the mindset. And to me, I'm just gonna say it because entrepreneurship is a really good life skill to have, regardless of where you are at.
We had to just look at our own curriculum to help us through navigating, changing our entire business model. It's like, what do we actually teach? Oh yeah, we gotta be able to actually go back to the basics here. Like, there's some fundamental mindset, skill sets, and tool sets with entrepreneurship. It's fantastic. Yeah.
And as a startup for us, right, we are supporting Gigsters in the community, and who do we work with and who supports us is people who they got the hunger, and they got the hustle, they've got the entrepreneurial mindset to come and change something for the benefit of the wider gig economy out there and all the self-employed out there. So even for me, as now I'm hiring and I'm having more team members joining us, it's one of the things that we look for is, do you have that mindset to come and disrupt?
No employers are looking at grades. Like, I did a recent like study on this. It was just like, I think I saw only like 20-something% of people are like, employers are actually giving a crap about your grades at uni. Like, none of that stuff matters, man. It doesn't, does it? Like, you're not looking for, like, when you're hiring,
correct, yeah,
you're not being like, so what was your
GPA?
Or it's like, what?
I don't remember seeing them.
Or even what they're studying as well. It's like, you're looking for so many other, like, are they resilient? Are they, will they be an ethical leader?
I wanted to, talk about, what's currently happening at X, because I know there's some awesome, exciting stuff that you've been cooking.
Yeah.
That smells really good. I wanted to talk about that because I think the benefit for my listeners here is they know that there's a company like this and there's an offering like this, and they can take that step forward. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm gonna ask you to tell me what's happening at X right now.
Yeah, and so for us to, just very selfishly and strategically, for us as we continue to grow, pre and during COVID, what we were doing was amazing, incredibly impactful, but it was more exclusive. It was like smaller cohorts. It was not scalable. It could only be at certain places at certain times. And so what we're trying to do is be able to have, I wish I had my phone here so I could show it, like, just like, we want to be able to have, like, educate you, for be able to take time away from education without taking time away from education. We want you to be in the gig economy. We want you to be trying new things, but, being able to actually have something with you that is recognized by universities if you choose that path, employers if you choose that path. And so what we've come up with is called Hex Ed, because it sounds like sex ed, and that's kind of fun. But we want to be able to have these kind of scalable impact points at all the different traditional stages of the education journey. So within high school, we've come up with digital products that can actually stack starting in year 9, year 10, year 11.
Nice.
So you could actually, in year 9, you have a course from Hex that is all about learning about yourself, like having that as a foundation. Because if you don't know yourself, other parts of your life will be much harder as you try to build a business. And I was guilty of that too. I didn't, I learned a lot about myself in this experience, but would like it for people to be much earlier. And then, year 10, you get that innovation experience. You get to know what it's like to be an entrepreneur, to use those, to gain those mindset, skill sets, and tool sets. And so we have that sort of high school version where we can actually plant it within the schools. And then obviously for the teachers, they can't keep up with the rapid changes of tech and innovation. They got to solve every other societal problem. And so we're kind of that that expansion pack for the schools. And so then as you're leaving high school, to kind of, not say the university is the only way, but we also don't want to completely say, don't go to university, because it will be valuable for a lot of people. And so we do have what we're calling, it's almost like an innovation gap year. As we were talking about, more people want to be entrepreneurs, more people are considering, okay, I do need a break after school. We want to use this time to be able to have this educational experience that is university recognized. So if you do go to university, you don't waste any time, and you save, especially for an international student, thousands of dollars. Because so Australian universities are like $4,000 a subject, and ours is going to be $700, so something, and so we want to have this the circuit breaker after high school. We want to be a legitimate next step after school. So if you want to go into entrepreneurship, start with HEX.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to uni, or I'm in uni.
Yes. So you're already there.
I'm there and like to try and learn entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
So I sign up with XED.
And
I participate in the program. You're telling me that the program is also
university recognized.
Oh, okay.
So what we've done
so I can go back to university and then,
so there's two ways that
do that credit
thing.
Thing?
One is to be in the best interest of the university, and then one's completely disrupting them. I'll give you both options. So you might already be, say you're at the University of Adelaide and you're studying computer science. Everything that HEX has designed is at a university level.
Awesome.
So the university can either embed it into their degree pathways, so that hey, you know what? In semester 2 of year 2, my elective could be HEX, and you make it a part of your experience. So that way you're staying on track.
I like it.
Or what you could do, which is a little bit more disruptive, especially for the international students who are just paying so much money in this country for education, is that you could do HEX and actually report back in, hey, over the summer I took HEX courses, because everything that we're doing is university credit aligned. As long as you have electives and things like that, you can actually, make that a part of your degree as well.
Nice.
And for a fraction of the cost. And so, we're trying to basically innovate in plain sight, be at that university level. So we can kind of actually, rather than being so sitting on the outside, we can kind of actually be going back to being a part of the machine.
Nice.
Almost like a Trojan horse. Where we can actually embed all of those things we're talking about within the traditional education system. So that way, we can actually really disrupt from the inside out, help universities be connecting more to industry, having students that go to university, graduate, and launching businesses, being, having amazing alumni, who are founding companies. So we are trying to come up with a sweet spot where we can have impactful education that the universities reluctantly accept, that are high impact for students and that they're more affordable. And then lastly, especially for your listeners, the flexibility that they might be working and studying, family commitments, mature age students, etc. Our curriculum is semi-synchronous, so it's flexible. So the video content is bite size. But then there's live elements, because what makes it impactful is also the people you meet, the mentors. So we just partnered with Atlassian, the tech company in Sydney, where we get to access so many of their staff to be mentors.
Awesome.
So we can then be having students who are, working, doing their own thing, be able to get mentorship, be a part of a cohort, and get education that is that's fun, that actually is enjoyable. And if they are at university or they want to go to university, it's actually still a part of it. So we can kind of we're trying to be that to actually be innovative, edgy, disruptive, but still fit in that traditional space, but kind of be the sort of I don't know, redheaded stepchild. That's kind of the kind of fun uncle, the fun uncle of it.
And I think it's a no-brainer because it kills two birds in one stone. If an international student like me who wants to try entrepreneurship, learn about it, but I'm also, I've got student loans, I've got family expecting me to graduate, and that's the reason I'm here, and I've spent a lot of money, so I'm not being distracted. I'm not taking another path.
It's not extra. You're already got so many life commitments already, right?
So it's in line, and it's beautiful. I don't know, listeners. I don't know what do you think, but if you think it's really good, I really wish you put it in the comments. Talk to us. Put in the new community feed. $1 million question here: how do my listeners get in touch with X and participate in the program? How do we know more about this?
Thanks so much. So our website's startwithhex.com, because we want, whether you're leaving high school, whether you are wanting to launch a business, whether you're in the workforce, if you don't know what to do, start with Hex. So it's startwithhex.com. And so we run cohorts for digital cohorts as well as in-person cohorts. So throughout the year, we're doing cohorts online for courses focused on entrepreneurship, on future. One's called You, because we want you to know all about you. One's called Tech, which we partner with Atlassian on. So basically, it's like Atlassian teaches tech, like what better company to do that? And one called Money. So I think that's like one. I mean, we would love to make sure that we get you to eventually contribute to that curriculum as well. And that's what's so cool is like these like people like you who are, startup founders are the ones that are doing the teaching.
Yeah.
Like it's not academics.
Oh, nice.
You guys. Yeah. And so we have cohorts throughout the year. And we also run programs in Melbourne, in Singapore, and we're launching Vietnam really soon as well. And we're eventually going to have, and here's what's kind of fun, we want to launch a digital nomads program that we're going to pilot in Bali.
Can I sign up?
Absolutely.
I'm not a student anymore, but I can pick up a student.
Well, you can use the MyGigster discount code
Yes.
that we'll put at the end of the of the podcast. But yeah, so we're just trying to, whether you are in a traditional path or a non-traditional path, that there's something there where we can be that real sort of companion in the educational journey. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. So for the listeners out there, head on to startwithx.com and that's where you grab all the information. But thanks for X. They are preparing an amazing, massive offer for MyGigsters community.
Yep.
You will find more of that information in the description of the podcast, and also be part of the community because it's exclusive, right? You say just talk to us, and we will. And Chris is in Adelaide. If you're in Adelaide, just let him know.
Yeah, and the Hex team is in Carlton. Yeah, we're about I think 13 deep over there. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm just the random person in Adelaide. Hey, it's a great place to be.
We're coming towards the end of the episode, but I really wanted to, quickly, capture one of the biggest things that we spoke about is, hey, thank you for sharing your story. And it's really important to know that a company is driven by passionate people. It's not just driven by people who want to make money.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of this, right? You and Jeanette and the rest of the crew are super passionate, and I think there's a powerhouse there.
And we don't have all the answers either, and that's the thing. It's just like we're passionate, we make mistakes. It's all about though, like just pivoting and continuously trying to improve. Yeah,
correct. And for us as MyGigsters, I always believe that to be able to empower and support this fast-growing self-employment that's happening across the globe, we've got stats saying that 50% of the global workforce will be self-employed to some degree in the next 5 years. We are really happy to be partnering with companies such as X, who are contributing to this community and this growing young talent. So thank you for being part of this ecosystem. Thank you for contributing to the ecosystem, and more importantly, I think the offering is super sweet. I love it. I wish it was there when I was studying.
And that is the most feedback we get, whether it's from an investor being like, oh my gosh, this is what my kids need to do, all the way, or I wish I had this. I mean, I would have benefited so much from this when I was younger as well.
So I'm super excited, man, super excited. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for being on the show and sharing. And we want you to get on the show again.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more because, there's so much to unpack here. But hey, for the listeners out there, if you are listening to this episode at whatever time you are in, just go to startwithx. Really, startwithx.com.
Yeah, all the social
start with X.
Start with X. Yeah.
Yes, and if you're part of MyGigsters community, don't forget to grab a discount code that we will provide you in the description, and make the best out of it. And also, if you're listening this episode for the first time, stick around. There's a few more episodes coming around. There is the newsletter. There's community live sessions. There's some reels. There's so much of fun that is happening in the community. So all I'm asking you is just come and check us out at mygigsters.com.au, or just go Google MyGigsters. You'll find tons and tons of pages that's all talking about us. And come and join us.
All the backlinks, you got those.
All the backlinks, yes. So sweet. So Chris, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Until we have a chat with you next time, it's bye from Benji and Chris.
Good to see you, my man.
Cheers.
Cheers.